Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel or this series, whatever. I'm literally so sorry that nothing came last week. It's the holidays, at least in Germany, so I completely forgot everything and anything that was in my routine when I have school. Um, but I'm here to deliver now, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. A Chat at the Mall by Blue_Obsidian. Chapter 3. League of. Summary. Bakugo unknowingly helps push Midoriya further and further away from the hero's side. Internally, Midoriya was panicking and screaming. Externally, he was cool as a cucumber. Oddly enough, so was Bakugo. Ever since he was brought in along with Izuku, he had been eerily silent. The League, who only knew Bakugo through the sports festival and likely a brief encounter since he was also captured, saw this as a pleasant surprise. Izuku, who had known Bakugo his whole life, used 10 years of Kachan study and know that this only meant a storm was coming, and it would be a lot more unpleasant than Bakugo normally was. But that wasn't the matter at hand right now. Shigaraki was showing them an interview with Aizawa Sensei, Black King, and Principal Nezu. Needless to say, the interviewer was not at all on their side, frequently trying to provoke the teachers. Izuku had an idea why Shigaraki was showing them this. He was also mildly uncomfortable by Dabi's intense staring at both of them. Didn't help that the League's eyes were all on them. Shigaraki turned the TV off. Isn't that strange? He asked. The heroes are becoming the bad guys. Seems like they're not dealing with this very well. Izuku's eyes scanned through the room, seeing about 8 villains, including Shigaraki, in the room. He could use full cowling to get away, but the likelihood of him escaping were very low. Plus, he also needed to get Kachan out of here. That was his main goal. The League had a rapper with them, so any escape they could have would probably be brief if they could even escape at all. But, Shigaraki continued, everyone makes a mistake or two, right? It's not like they're supposed to be perfect. Modern-day heroes have it rough, he turned to them. Don't you think? Bakugo and Midoriya? Bakugo was still oddly silent, which meant Midoriya should probably prepare himself for the inevitable huge temper tantrum. Once a hero receives payment for protecting people, they aren't real heroes anymore. That's what Stain's action taught us. Spinner interjected. A hero in this current system only cares about money and glory, and since society buys into those idiotic rules, those who are deemed as losers are shoved aside. Shigaraki ignored Spinner. We want to ask some questions. What is a hero? What is justice? Is this society truly fair? Soon those are questions everyone will be asking. That's when we know we've won. Shigaraki tilted his head and made eye contact with Bakugo. Do you like winning, don't you? And he's got you there. More bitter part of Midoriya's mind whispered towards Bakugo before Izuku promptly shut it up. Bakugo growled, which meant the temper tantrum was coming. Izuku should probably find a way to hold him back, because he guaranteed that Bakugo would take his anger out on the villains. They probably, maybe, deserved it. Izuku couldn't say, but he knew that Bakugo was going to slaughter these villains once he had the chance. Dabi, Shigaraki instructed, let them go. And you just let the beast out of the pen. Izuku genuinely considered just letting Bakugo attack the villains. Seriously, Shigaraki knew Bakugo had the instincts of a rapid animal, and he chose to let him go. You know they're just going to fight, right? Dab raised an eyebrow. It's fine, Shigaraki insisted. We're recruiting them, so we should treat them as equals. Besides, they're smart enough and to know they can't take us all, right? I do, but Kacha won't. After all, UA students are clever, Shigaraki mocked. Dabi was silent for a moment, staring at them. I'll get the green-haired kid. Twice, you get Bakugo. Sure thing. No way, the man presumably named Twice responded. Do it, Dabi snapped. Oh man, Twice whined. I do apologize for such forceful methods. A man who bore a semblance of a magician said, catching Izuku's attention. But please understand we aren't some kind of unruly mob committing crimes without so much as the third act in mind. We didn't kidnap you both by accident. As Twice was undoing Bakugo's restraints, Bakugo was eerily calm, a more monotone expression on his face, a bad sign. Izuku focused on the other villains while Dabi was undoing his own restraints. Even though all of our backgrounds are different, everyone here has suffered because of people, rules. I'm sure you both are at least similar to us. Shigaraki stood up and walked towards them. The first thing Bakugo did when freed was attempt to punch Twice in the face. And the first thing Midoriya did was restrain him. Deku! Kachan screamed, thrashing wildly. Let me go, you useless bastard! Izuku flinched at the sheer rage in Kachan. At the sheer rage Kachan was indulging, and the usual use of his infamous nickname. Kachan, don't, he warned. We are outnumbered, surrounded by villains, and they have a rapper who can transport us back any moment and back at a moment's notice. I advise you to listen to your green-haired friend, the magician said, stepping forward. He seems to be the more reasonable one of you two. Shut up! I'll kill you! Jeez, he's like an angry Pomeranian. A blonde girl with messy buns commented, giggling. What the fuck did you say? Bakugo managed to escape Izuku's hold by giving him an explosion to his face, knocking Izuku off his balance. There might have been more commotion, but he couldn't hear or see. His vision went black, his head hurt, his ears were ringing. Very rarely did Bakugo ever aim for Izuku's face. He was used to when they were little back when Bakugo only cared about getting Izuku to shut up, and it was always a one-hit KO for Izuku. But as Bakugo got older, he seemed to have a need to make Izuku suffer, and being taken out quickly wasn't exactly enjoyable for Bakugo. Hence the scars. Izuku's hands were on his ears and eyes were squinted shut, desperate to get the ringing to stop. He suddenly felt a cool, large hand ease him up and sitting up, rubbing his back comfortingly. For a moment, Izuku forgot he was in the League of Villains base and thought he was 4 years old again, with his mother comforting him after being told he was quirkless. When the black spots cleared from his vision, he saw who helped him. It was a man or teen, Izuku couldn't tell, with green scales, so likely he had a mutant quirk. He was looking over Izuku with a concerned look, a shot and shot Izuku a comforting smile when he saw Izuku looking at him, which Izuku returned after a moment of hesitation. The ringing was still there, unfortunately. Izuku saw the carnage Bakugo had created. He had managed to get a punch in with twice, and had apparently knocked Shigaraki's severed hands off his face. Izuku didn't know exactly how important the hand was to Shigaraki, but based on his reaction at the USJ, it was important to him. And he didn't like when people took it off. Izuku had even felt a small swell of anger when he saw what Bakugo had done. He wasn't sure why. When the ringing stopped, the first thing he heard was Kacchan's voice. If you want sympathy, look to Deku. He's pathetic enough to buy your bull. Kacchan screamed at Shigaraki, who was currently holding his own hand in front of his face in place of severed one. My, that's not a way to talk to your ally, though I guess you wouldn't know much about that since you attacked him and reduced him to a mess on the floor. A woman with shoulder-length red hair started. The fuck? Deku isn't my ally. He's weak, he's pathetic. Even with his hand over his face, Izuku could tell Shigaraki had enough of Bakugo and is screaming. As Shigaraki sighed, compress. On it, the magician, or compress, grabbed Bakugo with a gloved hand, and Bakugo could only flip his shit again. He was reduced to nothing more than a blue marble. Izuku remembered how everything went blue for a second before popping back into existence, and guessed it was the man's quirk. His hands twitched for a notebook. There we go. Compress picked up the small blue marble from the floor. I trust you'll be more reasonable, he said to Izuku. Izuku's eyes flicked around the room uncertainly. He only knew two people there, Shigaraki and Kurogiri. He wanted to at least call everyone by their names. Who are all of you? He gestured to the 6 new villains. Shigaraki blinked slowly as he put the hand back on his face. All right, you weren't exactly introduced to the League, were you? The girl with the messy buns who was laying across the countertop grinned. I'm Toga, she exclaimed. The woman with the red hair raised her hand in a greeting. I'm Magna. The person next to him helped him back on his feet. I'm Spinner, here to make Stain's dreams a reality. Izuku guessed that from the outfit. I'm Twice. No, I'm not. Izuku was saved from the confusion by the fact the other villain had called him twice earlier. Mr. Compress, at your service. Compress bowed slightly. Dabi. Izuku nodded. Right. And you kidnapped us because? We feel you two would make a fine addition to our case. We believe you two can understand our discrimination. Shigaraki started, and Izuku held back a snort. If there was anyone who wouldn't understand discrimination, it was Kacchan. Of course, we don't expect you to join us right away. I mean, you'd have pretty weak wills if you do, Shigaraki snorted. But we feel you two will make good additions to my party. Izuku nodded slowly. Okay, he said hesitantly. All right. After that, not much happened. Kacchan had lost standing privileges, being restrained to the rest of the time to the chair. Honestly, that was inevitable. Izuku could walk around unrestrained, but he wasn't allowed to leave the room. And always had to have supervision, but that was expected. For the first 2 hours, he was supervised by Toga. So, Izuku, Toga began drawing Izuku's attention. Bakugo screaming his head off, but Izuku had become a master at ignoring it. Toga just didn't seem to care. Izuku asked. Do you have a crush on anyone? She asked cheekily, grinning madly, a large blush on her face. He blushed madly and stuttered, What? No. Really? She didn't seem to believe him. Yeah, I swear. Hmm. She looked skeptical. Okay. Her mood changed in an instant, the bright smile still on her face. An uncomfortable silence doesn't upon the two. Sans Baku screaming. Tired of the silence, Izuku said, do you have any hobbies? He asked the villain. She grinned. I love hobbies, before tilting her head. I love to become the people I like. Also, I like to talk about people I've met, the people I've been. But there's no one to talk about it here. Dobby's a gram, Twice is really nice, but he's just so weird. Springer likes to talk about Stain, but not in the way I want to, she complained. Oh, he said. That has to be lonely. He paused. Do you have any friends at least? He realized how polite that sounded and froze and muttered a quick story. Toga giggled. It's fine, Izuku. Everyone in the league is my friend. Even if Kurogiri is kinda too old. Mustard my age, but he's gone. She began to pout. Jeez, was he really about to do this? Sometimes he was too sympathetic for his own good. Not that he knew that. We can be friends, he offered. Toga's eyes lit up. Really? She squealed. Yeah, if you want. Wait, question. Is Toga your first or last name? He asked. Toga giggled. Nope, my first name is Himiko. Okay, is it okay if I call you Himiko? Toga froze and regarded him with a wide-eyed stare. He began to sputter an apology, realizing how rude that was. She quickly silenced him by grabbing his hand and taking them in her own. We're going to be best friends, she said firmly. The bestest friends. He blushed at the contact. Oi, nerd, what the fuck are you doing? Help me out of here, you bastard, Kachan screamed. They both ignored him. After Himiko, it was Dobby's shift. He didn't talk much. He mostly stared at him and Bakugo the whole time. He only spoke when trying to shut Bakugo up. After him, Mr. Compress had entered the room and mostly stuck with watching Izuku while fiddling with his marbles that contained God knows what. Though for the last few minutes of shift, Izuku had heard him mention he was a showman and asked him to do some magic tricks, and Compress was always guessed his card. It was nice. Next was Spinner. He mostly asked about Stain and what he was like. Izuku responded that he was serious and seemed to be very dedicated to his goal. He was driven by conviction and was passionate about what he did. He also eluded a menacing aura that made heroes like Endeavor stop in his tracks. After that was Twice. Nothing special happened. Izuku mostly just tried to engage in conversation with him and almost always contracted himself. One side of him seemed more sweet and empathetic, while the other side was cold and rude. Last was Magne. Izuku actually had a fun time talking to her and listening intently to her gender and social construct, and pretty much agreed with all her points. She liked him a lot after that. She ruffled his hair and even said his hair looked like a bush. He blushed at that. Izuku guessed it was likely the end of the day. Maybe it felt like a while. He had no idea how long he was in that marble, in case everyone in the league was back in the bar, including Shigaraki and Kurogiri. Kachan was asleep, believe it or not. But he actually got tired of screaming around twice his shift. His throat would probably hurt a lot tomorrow. Shigaraki seemed not treasure his silence because he walked over to Bakugo's chair and slammed his fist down on the arm of the chair. Wake up, he snapped. Bakugo was awoken and screaming in a second. Way to go, Krusty. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Just fell asleep 3 hours ago, Twice whined, not conducting himself for once. I don't care. Shigaraki snapped and turned to Bakugo. Shut up. So, Shigaraki began. How do you feel about joining us now? Fuck you, Kacchan snarled. I'll never join your damn circus, you pieces of shit. He was cut off by being compressed by Mr. Compress. So loud, Mr. Compress scolded. Izuku blinked and looked at Shigaraki genuinely curious. Why did she decide he was a good fit for recruitment? Dabi snorted. I've been saying that since the blonde brat got here. Shut up. Shigaraki deadpanned him, turned towards Izuku. We believe he'll be a great addition to our party. Like him, we've been oppressed. We believe he would understand our discrimination. He was cut off by laughter, which was coming from Izuku. Izuku couldn't stop the laughter. The sheer irony in that statement. He fell on his knees, clutching his abdomen, tears falling from his eyes. He was laughing so hard. Izuku was becoming kind of concerned. When Izuku's laughter finally died down, Shigaraki snapped. What's so funny? Wiping a tear from his eyes, Izuku responded. Nothing. It's just, Kacchan would be the least likely out of anyone to understand you. He has not been oppressed or repressed for his entire life. In fact, it's really the opposite. I would know. I've been with him since we were children. Shigaraki raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what was his life like then? Izuku shrugged. Picking and weak, being praised by everyone for winning the quirk lottery, having the ego the size of the moon, normal Kacchan stuff. The league looked more interested now. Some even tensed. Oh, Shigaraki seemed interested. And tell us, how do you know this? Izuku chewed the inside of his cheek. She'd tell him. It was on the past now, after all. It was back in middle school. Besides, these were villains. They could air Kacchan's dirty laundry all over the news and ruin Kacchan's future. He sighed. Well, no one would believe them, probably, so he told them. Told them about his life when he was quirkless. Told them how Kacchan was praised and admired by everyone. Told them about the scars, the teasing, the bullying, the baiting. Told them about how he still flinched at the name Deku. And when he was touched, told them about how he finally got his quirk after 10 years, needing special qualifications to activate it, being a late boomer. He finished off with finally getting a 2A, but that didn't stop Kacchan from going after him, harassing him. He was looking at his lap the entire time, not daring to see the possible expressions they were wearing. They probably wouldn't believe him. After all, Kacchan had an amazing quirk. He was going to be a great hero one day. You shouldn't go around making excuses, Izuku. Don't try to ruin Katsuki's future. He finally willed himself to look up and saw expressions he didn't expect. Everyone was tense. Himiko had a dark look on her face. Spinner was cold and angry. Magna was frowning while gripping her magnet harshly. Twice looked shaken. Compress had stopped fooling with his marbles and was eerily still. Dabi still had his neutral expression, but Izuku could feel the heat coming off the fire villain. Shigaraki. Izuku could see the rage burning in his eyes behind the silver tanned. It was twice he broke the silence. Hey, boss, I don't think I want him on our side anymore. The rest of the league could agree with that sentiment. Bakugo was essentially a compilation of all the things they hated in the world. Bakugo, who reminded Dabi so much of Endeavor. Bakugo, who reminded Toga of her parents, the oppression, the fake friends. Bakugo who reminded Mr. Compress of all the injustice he had sought to destroy. Bakugo, who reminded Magna of all the discrimination, the misgendering. Bakugo, who reminded Spinner of all the bullying, the bigotry, the harassment. Bakugo, who reminded twice of his old boss, the one who had screamed at him, called him bad luck, and left him in poverty. Bakugo, who, although he didn't know, reminded Shigaraki of Kotaro Shimura. Toga leaped at Izuku and secured him in a tight hug. Spinner walked over to the two and placed a comforting hand on his head. Twice and Compressed walked over to the three and offered Izuku some comforting words. Izuku was crying violently. Dabi, Magno, and Shigaraki were all planning a murder. It was weird for Izuku to be comforted, especially by villains, but he wasn't thinking about that right now. All he thought about was, after years and years of being scolded and shut down by teachers, Yue and Aldera, was that someone had taken his side. Someone had taken his side. It wasn't a perfect moment, and it wouldn't last, but that didn't matter, because all was right with the world now. I'm literally so sorry, because it's probably so bad, because it's literally... Wait, what time is it? It's 11 p.m. about, like 11 p.m. I'm super tired, and I'm literally so sorry if it's really bad, but I'm not gonna record again because it's a long chapter and I'm really bad at reading now. So I hope you still enjoy, and I'll see you next time, maybe.